9A, we're testing the difference between two proportions. So this time we're gonna, similar to our Mythbusters activity, we're gonna look at two different proportions and see if there actually is a difference between the two. Okay, so some symbols you need to know. Okay, x1, x2 is the number of successes in each sample. Okay, so this is going to be very similar to 8A where we did one proportion. Now we're doing two. P hat 1, P hat 2, that's the proportion of successes in each sample. And then N1, N2 is the sample size. So like X1 over N1 would give me P hat 1. You might also see P1 and P2 referred to. The difference is these would be population proportions. So these are things we don't actually know. And then we put the little hat on it, that is samples. Okay. So here's our steps, very similar to what we did in the last unit. Identify our null and alternative hypotheses, identify the alpha, find the p-value on the calculator, compare p with alpha, same rules. If it's less than, we reject. If it's greater than, we fail to reject, and then write a one-sentence conclusion. Okay, and here's our calculator steps. Okay, so we're in that same menu, stat, test. We're going to pick Z, and then this time we're going to pick two proportions. So in the calculator, just like we've been doing, test, it's a Z test, and then this time we want two proportions. So last unit we did 1P, this unit we're going to do 2P, okay? And then similar to before, so for our P1, we are going to choose our alternative hypothesis, and then we're going to enter in the numbers for X1, N1, X2, N2. All right, so let's go through an example. So we have 150 occupants in cars and 200 in trucks, and 86% of the people in cars and 74% of the people in trucks wear seatbelts. At alpha equals 0.1, can we reject the claim that the proportion of people who wear seatbelts is the same for cars and trucks? So when we write our hypotheses, okay, I'm going to call cars P1 and trucks P2. So our null hypothesis is that P1 minus P2 is equal to 0, that there is no difference. Our alternative hypothesis, okay, all they're asking is if we can reject this claim. So I'm going to say that this would be not equal to 0. All right, alpha in the problem is 0.10. So now we get to go to the calculator. All right, so we're testing that P1 is not equal to P2. X1, they said 86% of people, so I'm going to do 0.86 times 150 because that's how many people were in cars. All right, and then my N would be 150. And then for the trucks, it was 74 out of 200. So I'm going to do 0.74 times 200, and then my N would be 200. Okay, and so like before, we get a p-value that is in scientific notation. So I'm going to put one less, so 2 zeros, so it would be 0.006. So my p-value is 0.006. 0.006 is my p, and then alpha is 0.10. This is less than, so I'm going to reject the null. All right, so let me get some colors here. Okay, I am rejecting the null hypothesis. I'm saying I have evidence for the alternative, which is that P1 minus P2 does not equal 0. So when I write my one-sentence conclusion, all right, it's going to be the same formula as before. So I'm going to reject the null hypothesis because the p-value is less than alpha. All right, this time we are rejecting, it asks about reject the claim. Okay, so let's go back here. Can we reject the claim that the proportion of people who wear seatbelts is the same? The same was our null hypothesis, and we have rejected that. So there is enough evidence to reject the claim that the proportions are the same. All right, so very similar to what we did last unit. We just have 2 samples going on now instead of 1.